Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Loss of Lieutenant. I'm your host Jacob, and I am joined by.
Josh.
Nick.
Yes.
I even tried to point this time to see if you guys would get it. You know what? Fuck it. I'm joined by Josh and Nick,
There we go. That's good.
and we are doing a part 2 of our CanCon Pimp My List episode. We got so many submissions that we had to split it into two. So today we'll be covering. Oh, what are we covering?
We've got 5 people now.
We
Five
got
submissions to cover.
Yeah, we do. We got quite a bit more Pano, a bit more CA, and a bit more. Wasn't there some Cosmo?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a Cosmo that
Cosmo
came in
analysis.
with enough time to get something done before the show.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's great. So thank you all to our listeners for submitting, for heeding our call, because we've got a ton of submissions, enough for 2 full episodes. But before we get into it, this is being recorded pretty close to our other recording. So, but did we get up to anything, guys? Let's go, Nick.
Not too much. Yeah. Figured maybe use this time to talk about what we would have submitted for the monthly challenge.
Yeah,
But we can do that later.
Yeah, no, we'll get to it in a second. Josh, anything interesting? Did you have another game of Tag Raid?
I haven't had another game of Tag Raid. No. I have played 2 games of Armoury this week though, which was exciting, and I think I went back into the annals of history and used inspiration from an old Rob Cantrell combined army list that he ran in when the transition from N3 to N4 in Armoury, and I have been finding some success and some fun with that. It's definitely reignited a little bit of passion.
What's the gimmick?
Oh, you can't ask a man his gimmick. That's that's Skivoros. It's got a Skivoros in it.
Fair enough.
I'm trying to have some fun with Sepsiders.
Yeah, we had a big discussion, I think, after our last show about the jank of Sepsiders and what they mean for armoring and holding missions. But yeah, like I said, pretty close to our recordings. There's not too much time to get our hobby on. But let's just quickly move on to the very few sort of tournament announcements we have coming to the end of the year. Obviously, people are busy. There's not a huge amount of tournament announcements going on, but we do have one here in Melbourne. It is the obligatory Road to CanCon. Just like every big tournament, BCB and CanCon, we in Victoria run a road to it. So this is the Road to CanCon. It is happening on the 6th of January next year, 2024. So don't get in your time machine and go back to January 2023. At the Collingwood Library in Abbotsford, the entry fee is $20. It is hard capped at 20 players. And the missions will be Last Launch, B-pong, and Armoury. So probably, I suppose, odd ones as far as room holding goes, as well as the 2 new ones. And the organizer, Tristan, has announced that the winner of this event will become the champion of Victoria and will be given all the hopes and dreams for Victoria to win CanCon.
No pressure.
Yeah, exactly. No pressure, guys. If you're attending CanCon, well, no pressure to win Road to CanCon, and then extra no pressure if you do win Road to CanCon to win CanCon itself. Can I say CanCon again?
It doesn't. Semantic satiation. It's
So,
lost all meaning.
Moving on, just to quickly mention our quarterly challenge. I still got half a month, 2 weeks left to put in your narrative submissions. Again, we want you guys to try and stick to 2,000 words, a narrative about in the Infinity Universe. You can submit it in the written word, or if you really want to flex your slam poetry skills, you can provide it in the spoken word, and we'll pick our favorites and either read them out or play them during the show.
Oh yes. There is a recent submission that is a song which I'm very tempted to record in my sultry dulcet tones into the tune of favorite things from The Sound of Music. So it's there's been a variety of submissions, so it's very fun to see. I'm still looking for some sonnets, so if anyone wants to back us up with some Infinity odes or poetry, then yeah, get those
What's the
random prose in.
Could someone do a Infinity version of the like sad song or poem from Game of Thrones? The Winds of something?
Oh, you mean the Rains of Castamere?
The Reigns of Castamere.
The song about the folly of coming up against a powerful house. Yeah, sure. I guess someone could.
It's just about coming up against the EI.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So we're moving from November into December. Obviously, we understand that there's not a huge amount of times to get your hobby on. So what we want to do is to give our listeners the opportunity to tell us about your most enjoyable or your greatest Infinity loss. Right, so I mean, unless you're some sort of Infinity prodigy, coming out of the womb, kicking ass and taking names, I'm sure everyone listening has lost at least one game. So we'd like to hear about the greatest of those. So submit your entry as a Google document to lostoflieutenant@gmail.com, and one random winner will be selected to win a blister of their choice from Toy Soldiers Imports. And Nick, you mentioned just before, with our lack of catch-up talk, having a bit of a chat about what maybe our greatest losses have been.
Yes. Yeah, I thought it'd be a good time to basically say what we would perceive as our most enjoyable losses at the table in Infinity, and hopefully that can also help inspire some people out there to think about their most enjoyable losses. So,
Kick us off.
yeah, sure. So when 4 came out, I decided to try to get back into Infinity. I ended up at an ITS event having played about 2 games since N1. First round was supplies, and I played my tack into Ryan's Caledonians.
Dogs into
now,
different dogs.
Yes. Now I'll say I have lost every game I've ever played into Ryan, and they have all been great games. But the story isn't about him. It's about the dice and the rules of the game. Because in that game, I lost every single face-to-face roll. Every single one. However, despite that, I didn't lose the game until the final order of the final turn, when Ryan managed to get one of his Galwegians to berserk into my Dynamo Paramedic that was hunkered down at the back corner of my board edge. At that point, he was able to get 1 wound on him, and he dropped the supply box, giving Ryan the win. Up until that point, it was still a tie. So basically, in the end, it didn't even feel like I lost the game. It felt like my opponent had won, but I was still able to make him work just as hard for that win, despite how miserable my dice were. And I don't think I could say that about any other minis game I've played. That's the game that sold me on Infinity, at least coming back into N4. Yeah, and to answer the question, yes, I still use those dice.
You haven't put them in a jail somewhere?
Oh no, they've redeemed themselves and unredeemed themselves, and yeah, they're
definitely.
good. They roll all over the place, so that's about what you could ask for dice.
I must say, if it wasn't for the fact that they cost like $20 a piece, and I didn't want to just piff them into someone's minis and destroy them, I would have a set of metal dice.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
I've got some metal
my
D.
superstition of like sharp corners doesn't outweigh my wallet.
I've got some metal D6s that I used in War Machine, and those worked nicely. But I think by the time you get to D20s, the weight plus they're round enough that they will keep going. So giving them more inertia is a bad thing.
Yeah, no, well, like I said, they also cost an arm and a leg. It's like $20
Oh
a
yeah,
die.
yeah,
You really want to flex on your opponent.
yeah. How about your games, Josh?
Well, good. I'd like. Well, first off, I'd like to reiterate how nice this monthly challenge is. I think it's we often tend to get into the nitty gritty of extreme competitiveness with Infinity, so it's nice to bring this back into a focus as a game that we like to play with our friends. And we should definitely, I think, all talk about losses a little bit more often, because how else would we learn how to be more extremely competitive when we're playing our game of fun against our friends? So yeah, very nice, good idea, whoever came up with this one.
Oh,
I think I've had lots of enjoyable losses. You can read that into I've had lots of losses if you really like. I think I've got a recent one from the tournament that I ran a couple of weekends ago, which was the yeah, no, Joe, we're not talking about CanCon 2023. Thank you very much. That was not enjoyable. I had a bad time. Hence the non-competitiveness of Infinity. A tournament recently, I was running the tournament, but I had to play a few Gumby games, and I like to take the view of play a Gumby game of Infinity as a game of Infinity, and the but the player who is playing it in the tournament gets a bye regardless. So if they lose, they get the win, the 4 point win from the bye, and if they win better than what the bye would give them, they get the win from the bye. So I played against our local Hugh, who's a dear friend, and he's pretty much exclusively playing pseudo limited insertion OSS for about the past six months. And he states it's to reduce his cognitive load during games and play some big stompy pieces that we all love. The list that he played was one that he's sort of tuned a lot. It's his OSS list, and it was so just beautifully piloted, and it used all of its little tricks, and he unpinned every little puzzle that I threw at him, especially a great one of a Skiavoros steps at us staring at his Asura. He managed to unpick that one pretty well. So it was just a fun time with a friend, just an enjoyable game, and a good example of how being optimal is not always the best, because he won. The bastard.
Think I might quickly, I guess, sort of mirror you. I did actually have a loss. I remember against Hugh when we were testing out the submissions we had for our custom mission tournament when we were playing the predecessor to last launch. No, what was the one where the armory room took off? Was
No,
that
that wasn't last launch. That was drop shipping.
drop shipping? That was a really enjoyable match because I was playing Hugh, I was on the back foot, and I was trying to figure out a way to win. And I got lucky enough because of the way the rules worked that I had a Tiger Soldier able to pick up one of the like his Azura was when I was not like it was an Azura and a Tiger Soldier. I was not going to be able to hold the room, so he had that point. There's no way I was going to get through that Azura. So I grabbed one of the objectives, jump, and then used like all of the sort of mechanics where if you jump out of the room, you fall to the ground regardless of whether like the Azura killed me or I failed my drop or anything like that. So yeah, drop trooper jumps off, gets shot in the back by a zero, goes splat. Right, monk grabs the boxes, and at the end of my turn, I'm looking solid. I could possibly pull out a win. But one of my favorite things about that win was it was essentially me and Hugh working together, going, okay, how do you? Because Hugh didn't have quite enough orders to like muck around, so to speak, and I got some lucky dodge rolls, and it was him and I trying to figure out how he unfucks himself and gets that last point, because I think it was I think it ended up going down to he needed me to hold none of the boxes, and then him to hold the room. And so that was really fun. I do like just sort of working together with my opponent, where maybe not so much in a CanCon setting, but when you're in that sort of more casual tournament setting of working together with your opponent to further whatever their goal is at the time, right? With, the hope that, karmically somebody will help you figure out how to unfuck yourself / screw them over at some point. But I've always learnt, and I think this is probably universal, I've always learnt more from my losses than I have from my wins. I remember I had a streak of just playing every O12 player here in Melbourne, and I'd gotten just I was so good at kicking the absolute crap out of O12 models. But I'm like, I want to fight anything that's not O12, because I'm just taking all these I'm missing out on all these units to try and test out, because I can't get away from, that'll kick the crap out of the Omega, and that'll kick the crap out of Gangbusters or whatever. So I still remember, for the most part, I think most people learn about Toha and what they can do from getting the surprise shit kicked out of them. I remember playing Rob Cantrell, similarly to what you were talking about, Nick, at the cusp of N3 and 4, and I think it was the first time that I was introduced to the Kriegel agents with Ferroware on them, and just having him go Ferroware. I'm like, what are you talking about? You can't sing. You don't have a mate. He's like, it doesn't matter. Ferroware. I was just lucky he was trying to do it to Hector, who was BTS 6 with a tin bot. Yeah, just things like that. So yeah, I've always preferred having a loss where I've tried really hard, something hasn't worked out, and I can take that away, than just necessarily stomping my opponent. I think I could, in a tournament, I could probably do with maybe 1 in a 3-day, maybe 2 stompings. And if I do that more than twice, I'm like, ugh. I feel bad. I feel like I'm the asshole in the tournament.
I do remember that game that you're talking about against Hugh, and I believe it was more than just a collaborative game between you and Hugh.
Oh, it was. I think we were the last, and it was everybody going, "This is how you do it."
The entire room was collaborating on how to make you lose that game.
But it was fun, because it was me and Hugh using the mechanics of this new mission that who made it? Was it Lewis? Yeah, that Lewis made. Me jumping off and still getting the point, and trying to figure out the new points, and the points in this mission and all that. It was a lot of fun to just try and figure out how does this mission work, and how best can you beat me. I think it ended up coming down to the last burst of a solo. What were they called? A solo Dakini. I think it came down to just that.
Well, Nick's came down to a Galwegian, and mine came down to me being an absolute shitter at the game. So sometimes very innocuous things happen to hand us our losses. Just a reminder to everybody listening that if you like what we do and you want to support us financially, you can do so for $3 a month at patreon.com/lossoflieutenant. If you can't commit financially, that's totally cool. It's the holiday season. Times are tough. We want to buy some Christmas presents. Just let us know that you like us, liking, subscribing, commenting, hitting notification bells on Spotify, Podbean, wherever you get podcasts, and following, and YouTube would be great. And join our Discord. The invite link to the Discord is in the episode description.
Facebook, Josh. We do most of our stuff on Facebook.
Facebook as well. But if you're on Facebook and you're in any of the Infinity groups, you know who we are.
Yeah, we're the ones that do weird crit posting in the serious forums. But yeah, so for this month, that's the sort of thing we want to hear about, right? What happened in the game? Why it was a good loss? Did you learn something? Was it funny? Stuff like that.
What made you enjoy it and remember it?
I mean, I did one thing when I was losing an N3 because you could walk off the edge. I just walked off the edge and dropped a dude down to try and snipe something. Didn't work, but it was funny.
Falling. So, what do we do? What are we up to today?
Okay, so
CanCon's
coming up in January. So we've got part 2 of our Pimp My Lists. And as a reminder, the CanCon missions are Unmasking, B-pong, Countermeasures, Armoury, and Last Lunch.
And before we get into it, Jacob has something queued up for everybody to listen to. So, and I'm sure that we can just edit that in when we need to.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Is Jacob listening to it as we speak? Yes.
I could if I wanted to. I don't know. I'm fucking bring it up. I don't know. We'll give a crap. Oh, I'd have to do so much to.
Just leave it. It's fine. The guy, they can listen to the episode. Provide us with another view if they want to hear the guys who are listening in the.
Appreciate my effort.
We do.
And possibly our copyright infringement. I'm not sure about that one.
No, it's fair use.
Very highly doubt that.
It's certainly not fair use. Where do we start off? Who's our first pimpable player, Jacob?
It was it's bloody Trent. Hold on. Before we do any of that, let's actually put up. There we go. Now we can actually see the stream. Right, yes. So Trent has submitted to us a Neo Capitera. I was really hoping to flex on actually saying that name properly. Neoterran Capitera. Fuck it.
Neoterran Capitoline Army.
Capitoline Army. Oh my god. I was not going the right direction of that at all. And he's decided to give me a headache because his list consists of 1 Scoreless Mark II NCO with a multi-heavy machine gun, a Auxilia with a combo rifle heavy flamethrower, a Peacemaker with a heavy shotgun and a heavy flamethrower, another Auxilia with a Oxbot heavy flamethrower. Sorry, all these heavy flamethrowers are attached to Oxbots, if you can believe it. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Auxilia forward observers with Oxbot heavy flamethrowers, another Auxilia with an Oxbot and heavy flamethrowers. Then in group 2, it is a machinist with 2 powerbots, a Peacemaker heavy shotgun with an Oxbot and heavy flamethrower, a Auxilia lieutenant combi rifle with an Oxbot and heavy flamethrower, another forward observer Auxilia with Oxbot with heavy flamethrower, and another Auxilia with Oxbot and heavy flamethrower.
So that is 13 Oxbots with heavy flamethrowers.
Yeah.
The machinist is working.
None of which contribute orders.
Yes.
That machinist is working overtime. He's patching up so many things.
So, I understand, right, because the idea was that this was supposed to be... Mostly, the idea was that this was for Armoury. And I understand, I think every single time I've spoken to people about playing Armoury, units like not McCool's. Yeah, McCool's come up with their heavy flamethrower. Pretty much anything with a heavy flamethrower comes up, right? They're scary, they do a lot of damage, and they can take out anything. Tag, heavy infantry, you name it. However, while I suppose this list excels at that point of putting heavy flamethrowers into clearing the room, it doesn't really have a lot of staying power, especially in Armoury. That Swallow cannot enter the Armoury; it's too big. And the Auxiliars, while they are a decent shot, I don't even know if they're BS-13 off the top of my head.
I would hazard a guess to say a 14-point model isn't BS-13.
Yeah, but it is NCA and it is
True, it is Pano.
Pano.
Auxilia or BS-11?
BS-11.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they're not winning any real
Yeah.
shooting competitions, especially if you're outside of 10.5 inches, which is the length of a heavy flamethrower template. So yeah, it's not. It's going to clear an Armoury. I doubt, very highly doubt, it's going to hold it unless you somehow manage to get all the Auxiliars to surround it.
Just go second. Clear the Armoury, score a point. Clear the Armoury, score a point.
I suppose, but you don't necessarily control that.
Just play stupid. Just play better, stupid. Right, so you've done a little bit of complaining about it. What did you change?
Well, first thing is I reduced the meme levels of Auxiliars. He's now got 2, which now feels kind of punitive.
What? There was 11. He's now got 2.
Yeah.
Bastard.
However, I have kept his Peacemaker Oxbots.
Okay.
And I'll come to that in a second. What I thought of taking advantage for. So if you're taking a look at this, I've for the most part completely reworked the list. I couldn't really see a way of pimping the list without like just deleting swaths of auxiliars to add anything else. I mean, they are very cheap. And what I've tried to do is take advantage of the massive amounts of marksmanship that you can get in NCA. So I have a 5-man group of a Bolt Spitfire, a Bolt Combi Rifle Light Shotgun Drop Bears, a Bolt Killer Hacker with Boarding Shotgun, a Bolt Paramedic with Combi Rifle Light Shotgun, as well as Shona Corona. Oh my god, I'm getting fucking tongue-tied. It's not even a difficult name. To add like some sort of like berserk combat prowess to throw into the middle. I then have an Auxilia. This one's probably one of my, like a vanity pick for me.
You mean Aquila?
Aquila, sorry, the Aquila. What did I say?
Auxilia.
Sorry, Aquila. I had so much trouble when I was putting this together, not mixing them up. Yeah, an Aquila with HMG. The reason I've got him is BS-15, MSV3 means that any camo markers that manage to get into the room, easy to discover, easy to shoot at. Right, you got the auto succeed discover, as well as your BS-15 HMG, and he's in suppressive up at like the front door. I reckon he's going to be pretty hard to move. You then got the Peacemaker with Auxilia with a heavy flamethrower, as well as an Auxilia. Sorry, an Oxbot with heavy flamethrower, as well as an Auxilia, just plain combi rifle with a heavy Oxbot with heavy flamethrower, and 2 Fusiliers, 2 basic Fusiliers, one of which is being a lieutenant. In your second group, you have a Peacemaker with an Oxbot and heavy flamethrower, another Auxilia with an Oxbot and heavy flamethrower, a Millbot with the Evo hacker, as well as a Fugazi drone bot. Right, which gives you 14 orders to the list. What I feel this list allows you to do is really take advantage of marksmanship. All the bolts have marksmanship. That boarding shotgun up close using the slug, I think hits on 20s, right, without any Viz mods.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, after team.
Yeah, and while it's not huge as far as whip is concerned, it still has Trinity, which is +3, so it's attacking on on 15s. You could put it through one of the Peacemaker's repeaters, which means you've then got firewalls to protect you. And they are BTS 6. Right, so they are tough hackers. So that piece there pulls a lot of weight. Plus it has EM mines. It's got veterans, so it can't be isolated. You've then got the bolt with the drop bears and a light shotgun. So again, you got that plus 6 with the light shotgun. You've got drop bears, which are awesome for sort of forking that ARO and forcing your opponent to decide whether they dodge. You fire your slug. Your shotgun is a slug. They don't dodge. Well, they just take a mine to the face. You've got a bit more staying power in just the 5-man team as well as the Aquila. And you also have the potential to get the Peacemaker's marksmanship with the Mulebot to also get like hitting on 8 heavy shotguns. Right. And again, the Oxbots work as that sort of choice between, do you dodge the flamethrower and hopefully dodge the shotgun, or do you do you oppose a shotgun and just take a heavy flamethrower? So yeah, I think this gives the list a lot more staying power. I think it still allows it to clear rooms relatively well. I think you could probably, if you wanted, make it a Bolt Harris and maybe make it like a defensive Fusilier link, that sort of standard 4 Fusiliers and a Fusilier missile launcher. Like I said, the Aquila is a bit of a vanity pick on my part. Could see you maybe splitting him up, making sure you can get that 15 orders into something else. Potentially even getting Bulleteer, again, leveraging that marksmanship, like just keeping that marksmanship program up on a repeater bot constantly. The other thing that this list does is it gives it a little bit more breadth to do Armoury, Last Launch, and B-pong. So again, you've got that staying power as well as those specialists.
Yeah.
I think the only thing instinctively I want to change would be Shona, just because you're one model away from a pure core. But with marksman and the fact that they're trying to get at short shotgun range, I think you've got a point that plus 2 BS isn't really necessary.
I think with B-pong at least you'll wanna switch that out and see if you can get a bolt sniper in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would be the other one. Find 4 more points to the bolt sniper.
Yeah, and it is like that shotgun at close range in a linked team. You have a 15% chance, like a full pure link is a 15% chance to crit. Does it on 18, 19, and 20s. So yeah, if you want to, you can definitely go that way. The reason I had Shona there is just in case you come up to like a melee heavy Ariadna army, right? She's just an absolute nightmare when it comes to stuff like that, right? With her, right, like, 2 attacks in melee, martial arts level 4. She dodges well. She's got no ending cap. Explosive APCC weapons. So, I mean, if you can get her into, let's say, a tag, that tag is dusted. But yeah, there are points to move around here. Like I said, the Aquila and Shona are probably the more obvious examples of where you can take things down or change things around.
Yeah, I think I agree on the. Yeah, Shona's a tough one because
not burst 2 in CC.
yeah,
Burst 1.
Oh, sorry, there's a +1 damage. Sorry, misread that.
Yes.
Getting the multi sniper in there for only 4 more points, and you've already got the SWC. I think that gives it a bit. You're right. It's the debate of, do I want something that can clear close combat monsters from the armory, or something that now makes that a pure link that's fighting at all range bands.
Yeah. the reason, because I did consider putting like the bolt sniper's insane. Like I obviously did consider
Mhm.
putting it in. The
Mhm.
problem with Armory specifically is because you've got that that infinite height building right in the middle of the board. It's not
Mhm.
as necessary. Like it's not as difficult to move around where you might need the sniper to fight at those huge ranges.
Mhm.
So this is like a 5-man close up
Mhm.
fighting link. But you're right. If you were, say, to want to be a little bit more defensive with it, maybe just toe in the peacemakers, and have them sort
Mhm.
of sit around it. Yeah, take out Shona, put in the sniper, um, and if you need the points, downgrade the Aquila to like the specialist multi marksman rifle. I mean, that gun's already pretty damn nasty.
Mhm. I think what Josh said is a good point. It's not so much that it improves it for Armory, but it makes it more diverse for the other missions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
this is
I
definitely a great objective room.
Mhm.
Wow, it's a good objective room list.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mhm.
I think
yeah. I mean, I think NCA is
B-pong's a
always
little ambitious, but it could be. Yeah, you need to
true.
find the bolt sniper. I think for B-pong.
Yeah, I mean, the NCA is always going to have a bit of trouble when things want to get close up because they're not the most proficient at it. I think a lack of mimetism hurts them. Now we'll move on to Trent's next list.
Mhm.
So Trent's next list was a double squallow list. So in our
The
first
Trent
group,
special.
sorry,
The Trent special. 2 tags.
yeah. So it was a Squallow multi marksman rifle, I think duoed with Shona, because she's a wild card and the Squallow does have a duo link.
Not a bad one to tow around.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad idea. Shona's a little slow, but hopefully there's enough shooting like combat to slow that Squallow down. Then
Mhm.
you've got the Fusilier Lieutenant with another Fusilier, a Fusilier Paramedic, a Hacking Fusilier, and then a Fusilier Missile Launcher. 2 CSU Special Operatives, one with a Breaker Combi Rifle and then a Pulsar +1 Burst, the other one with a Rifle Light Shotgun, and a Garuda Forward Observer. The next group is another Squallow, this time a multi-heavy machine gun, 2 Fugazi drone bots, a machinist with a power bot, and a Tech Bee. So from what I can gather there, we've obviously got the double Squallow with a shorter range one, dragging Shona along with it. You've got a defensive Fusilier link, and you've got the CSU and the Garuda for pushing your buttons. So if we flick the next one,
And just rely on them. CSU's like Whip 11.
yeah. So yeah. Well, that was I suppose one of my, I guess, issues with that particular list is it's relying on some very low whip button pushes. So keeping in line with the sort of like the 2 punch pieces, and I like the idea of the duos. So I've changed the list to be a Squallow Mark II with the multi heavy machine gun carrying around Shona. Sorry, no, carrying around Uma Sorensen, and then an Aquila with the multi marksman rifle specialist operative carrying around Shona. Which now that I think about it, I bet you anything that's not legal. Oh, they're both bloody wild cards. Good on me. Oh well, you
That's
got
right.
options. You got options there. That's all right. Change it for like, I don't know, Bulleteer or Bolt. Just a Bolt killer hacker. Actually, that's probably a good change for it. Is the Bolt killer hacker?
Instead
Um,
of Uma Sorensen or instead of Shona Carano?
it's probably instead of, yeah, Shona.
Uma, right? Ooh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah, and you have that anti-hacking following the Squallow around.
Yeah.
Yeah. My bad, listeners. Then you've got, so after that, you've got a Mulebot Evo Hacker, 3 Fugazi drone bots, Machinist with a Power Bot, and a CSU Special Operative. After that, you've got a Fusilier, a Fusilier Lieutenant, and this is in Group 2, another Fusilier, and then a Fusilier Paramedic, and the Fusilier Missile Launcher. So I've moved the defensive group to its the defensive link to its own group. I went with the idea of 2 duos. Obviously, it's not going to be the Aquila and Shona, and more likely be the Aquila and the Bolt Killer Hacker, who I'm just going to make sure, so I'm not giving more wrong advice, is less than Shona. Awesome. Yeah, and that gives you 2 decent fighter pieces. It still kept sort of the same gun in the multi-HMG and the marksman rifle, the multi-marksman rifle that the Skies had, but I've just mounted one on that Aquila. The idea of this is to sort of give it a bit more of a bit better, so I guess, button pressing presence. You've got that hacker now, that can go up and press an unmasking terminal, gets that 2 dice, that +3 whip. Right, you've also got Uma, who's a specialist operative who can follow in one of the duos, who can also press the button, make sure that it can also press the buttons at a better whip than what you had at the CSUs and even the bolts, because I'm pretty sure she's 13. Can't I find you?
Medium infantry top. She's whip 13.
She is. Yeah, so she's whip 13. So decent specialist whip, right? Forward observer. It means that she can still press those buttons, and it means that those 2 can go up and attack your opponent's designated high value targets. And then as for the rest, you've got that defensive link just there to defend your own high value targets, as well as the Fugazis there just to be sort of cheerleaders. The reason I've got the Mulebot in there is the fact that a lot of the missions that we're playing this coming BCB CanCon do give extra orders to that Mulebot, which is why it's in the first group. But it also allows it to give that additional hacker protection to the Aquila and the Squallow, because they are heavy infantry and tag. You can put it down fairy dust.
Only in one at a time.
Yep.
Isn't it a board wide?
Yeah, but it's either
tag or heavy,
or tags or hackers.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, it'd be whichever one you're pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah, more likely you put it on the Squallow. And yeah, so that's the idea of this one. I'm hoping it's a little bit more button pressing-y. I didn't like the CSU still there as a backup if you really need it, especially if you roll well on its meta chemistry. If you get like an 8-4 move, then I suppose at the very least it's a very quick specialist.
Yeah. I probably put the tag into Group 2.
Well, that's sort of the alternatives to this list. I can see there's a lot of reason to like take the tag and whoever it's duoing with and the 3 Fugazi bots and put it into Group 2, and then bring the Fusilier link up into Group 1 to just be there defensively as well as cheerleaders for Group 1. So there's plenty of orders that you can muck around. You can very easily go for like a 8-7 split if you wanted. Just take one of the duos into Group 2 and leave the Fusiliers as they are.
Yeah, I'd take the 8-7 split and put the tag in Group 2. Tag and whoever's with the tag in Group 2, probably. Yeah. That way you can Otor's Prestige the in Group 1, and you have the NCO order in Group 2 as well. So
that was one of the biggest considerations
9-8 split.
Like for doing that split is if you have it as it is right now, none of your like fighty duos can have O12 Prestige.
And so also that core's doing nothing. Like
yes, true. It's you got 5 orders
it's
not powering
anything.
Nothing. Yeah,
yeah.
So this is the units, right? I couldn't quite like decide exactly how I'd want to split them up, but yeah, I would
Yeah, that's
definitely
fair.
either like flick the three Fugazis and one of the duos into group 2, or I'd just move one of the duos into group 2 and take that. Well, I suppose in reality it's a 10-7, 10-8 split when all the orders are said and done.
Yeah, right about.
And depending on what mission you're playing, it could be even more because that mule bot will give you an extra order.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The O12 Prestige is a good thing to bring up because that was one of my concerns seeing the first list, is he's got a tag in both combat groups, which means neither combat group can O12 Prestige.
yes, and with his first list, because there was so many peripherals, he also can't use his command tokens to coordinated order.
Coordinate.
So it's a case of we've got all these options now in which you and ways in which you can use your command tokens, and you don't no you no longer have, like, I don't know about you guys, but in my recent games I've never had a command token by the end of the game.
All right, some of my recent games, I've been spending 3 or 4 in turn 1.
Yeah. And so yeah, you've got to now consider where you put your attack awareness. Like, if you have to, I would say stack all your attack awareness into one group.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my attempt at pimping trans NCA lists.
Good.
Okay.
Nick, I think you're up next.
Okay, on to Jordan's lists. So his first list for Vanilla Combined is Group 1 is a Caronted Lieutenant MSV3 HMG. He then has an Umber Samaritan hacker with hacking device with Trinity and Plasma Carbine, Bit and Kiss, Sheshkin Red Fury, Missilebot, a Flashbot, 2 Dodrazi chain rifle grenades, and 2 Icadron baggage bots with light flamethrowers. Group 2 is a Dartok hacker, another Flashbot, a Libertos mine layer, a Gaki, and a Taiga creature. So his ideas with this wants to have something that works with all missions, and then have a second list that he can tailor to a specific opponent or a specific style or a specific board. Fronted's there to do MSV3 plus smoke and clear the arrows. He's got Sheshkin and the Umber Samaritan that are there to loot the enemy DZ for Protheon tokens. And then he can always do pitchers plus guided missile bot. Some of the alternatives he was looking at, possibly a TR bot, an Evo hacker to get the bonuses from the missions like you mentioned. And he was a bit concerned that it would be weak into countermeasures. So with this one, I have played into this list a few times. It is a very good all-comers list, especially in resilience. But I agree it's going to struggle with countermeasures. It's also going to likely rely very heavily on the Umber Samaritan as the only real midfield specialist to do B-pong, unmasking, and last launch. So want to try to get it some better classified coverage, better midfield specialists. I looked at the Evo hacker, and given how cheap he can get regular orders, I couldn't come up with a way to get the Evo hacker in there that didn't end up losing orders after you consider the bonus order the Evo hacker gets.
Yeah,
So
I think the CA have a slightly more expensive Evo hacker because it's smaller and actually has a gun.
It's 18 points, yeah.
Yeah, it's slightly more expensive,
okay.
and they've got Icadrons and Imatrons. And
Yeah,
that's
true.
Unless you want the Evo hacker because it's an Evo hacker, yeah, there's not a whole lot of competition for that slot. So, what did I change? So the Dartok, I swapped out for a Caliban Engineer and moved it into Group 1. One of the Icadrons, I changed to an Imatron and moved to Group 2. The Taiga became a second Gaki, and Bit and Kiss got moved into Group 2. So this gives 5 more classifieds because of the Caliban engineer that he can cover, and also provides better midfield specialist coverage with the Caliban forward deploying. I have played this into this list, so Bit and Kiss I felt never really seemed to do quite enough to warrant them being in Group 1. And I thought being in Group 2, they've got enough orders, they can toss the pitchers out, they can get a hack in to spotlight if they need to, and still have enough orders that like the Libertos and the Gakis can do their thing.
Yeah, so
And if Bit and Kiss aren't needed that turn, you've got Gakis and Libertos.
Bit and Kiss can't spotlight, so they
Oh.
they're on killer hacking duty. That's it.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, they get the pitchers out, then Samaritan
Spotlights. Yeah.
spotlight. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that pretty much covers it with that. Pretty simple changes to take it from one that I think is a little over-reliant, or not over-reliant, over-invested in hacking to the point that it has too much redundancy and backup, and now has a bit broader coverage of the objectives and the battlefield for specialists.
Yeah, that's definitely what I've been finding with Combined is that because it's very top heavy, you find yourself relying on one or two specialists that if they go down, the whole thing sort of crumbles. So yeah, like adding the Caliban engineer, something that's a bit more survivable as well, is it's good.
Yeah. It also gives you a little bit more combat presence with the extra Caliban, because you've still got the Gakis similar-ish to the Tigers.
I might be tempted to take find a point and take the Dartok instead of Bit and Kiss.
That was another consideration.
Yeah. I'm a bit lower on Bit and Kiss than probably 99% of Combined Army players are, and I prefer the Dartok. But
if she pops off with her pitches, she can make it really annoying just to move up, because you have to spend so many orders getting rid of the damn.
The Dartok
things.
has pitches too.
Yeah, but she's just got extra because Kiss has some as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And she's also a mine layer with repeaters.
A deployable repeater. Yeah.
So that is an excellent way to block off a section of your board edge. I have found played into that where I could not bring on a heavy infantry parachute because there was not a space on the board that it wouldn't get carbonated immediately.
Yep, she's good at that.
So, the Dartok versus Bit and Kiss, part of this was I've played him. I played the list, and he seems to Bit and Kiss seems to mesh with his playstyle better than the Dartok, or at least that's what he seems to prefer on the table.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like I said, both work.
And this is probably more of a PSA for Combined Army players. How does the Carotid and Mnemonica mesh with Oblivion?
So if you isolate the Carotid and then don't kill it, this list goes into Loss of Lieutenant. Okay. As soon as the Carotid enters a null state, Mnemonica triggers, regardless of whether they're isolated or not.
So, I mean, I get it. It's an extra order on the Carotid. It's a pretty beefy and very good shooting piece. I suppose it's a list that
this list needs the Carotid.
Yes.
Oh no! I mean, it's a 70-point model. There are so many other bits that sort of fit into the slot of 70 points. But the Carotid is if it's the big damage piece there. I was just wondering. It's just something
it's not necessarily
camo.
It's not necessarily the big damage piece. It's the piece that clears the way for Sheshkin and the Umbra.
True. Yeah.
Combine army struggles against camo and mimetism, and having the Quran to just go discover automatic shoot, discover automatic shoot, discover automatic
Yeah.
shoot. Do that through smoke as well, so it's super safe
Yep.
because they've got 2 data Razi. Yeah, you don't get much better than smoke shooting through with a Quran.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's more of a PSA of if you're going to run your lieutenant as a heavy infantry, just be careful that it doesn't
Yeah. Well,
like
this,
get
I mean,
isolated.
yeah. If it does in your active turn, that's right. That's why you've got a Caliban.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because like me playing Bakuna, and I'd be like, okay, so can I isolate and immobilize that motherfucker.
Mm.
Actually, no, I just run at it with a fucking chimera. All problems are solved by chimeras.
They do. They do solve a lot.
All right, do we
And
do
they
it
don't
for
get
list
hacked
two?
back with Trinity.
Yeah.
So list 2, uh, I guess list 2 is Sheshkin Lieutenant Red Fury, Caliban Chain of Command, Umbra Samaritan Hacker Plasma Carbine with Trinity, Bit and Kiss, Missile Bot, a Dartok Hacker, Libertos Mine Layer, PR Bot, an Ikadron, and a Dazarazi. And then in group 2 is another Dazarazi, another Ikadron, Dr. Worm with 2 drones, and 2 Tiger Creatures. And his common sense was it was trying to be more aggressive, trying to go against opponents that were light on mimetism, therefore didn't need the Caronted. But still a new list, not quite sure where it's going, and I kind of looked at it and had the same thought that I'm not sure where it's going. So I deferred to Josh on this, who plays vanilla CA, and
Right.
see if he can flex this a bit more, because I think it's a bit beyond my let's tweak this a little bit.
Fair enough. Look, the beacons of Gondor are lit. Rohan answers. Gondor course right. Rohan will answer. So, look, Jordan and I discuss lists a lot. It's our primary pastime. We played Vanilla Aleph together and came up with some very cool lists. We're currently playing Vanilla Combined together and coming up with some very different ideas for lists. So what I thought about this one specifically is that the main issue that we're gonna see here is coming up against some MSV ARO pieces. So my big change was I removed the Guided Missile Bot and Bit and Kiss and added in a Speculo killer. I also turned one of the slave drones on the on Dr. Worm into an R drone just to make up for the extra order that you lost from removing both Bit and Kiss and the Guided Missile Bot. I didn't think that it needed to rely too much on the threat of guided missiles. Sheskin is arguably a more efficient guided missile than Spotlight and GML is anyway. So just throw Lieutenant Sheskin at people. Speculo. Yeah, so the reason I didn't take the Dartok out is because I thought that the Dartok was kind of better for the job that Bit and Kiss was doing when you took the T drone out, and the reason that is throwing a picture and getting rid of that one hacker specifically. Dartok's a veteran. They have dogged. They're BTS 6. They kill hackers with ruthless efficiency. They're very, very good. So I think that that's why I kept the Dartok in and Bit and Kiss out. You could swap those around if you needed to. So it removes some redundancy. The Speculo helps remove basically anything that you don't want on the opponent's side of the field. The Speculo does that, gets rid of that for you. Speculo's in Group 2, so it uses Group 2's orders, and if you need to, you can move it into Group 1 because we've got a 9-6 split. It can complete, I think, semi-reliably complete all of the missions as well. All classified, so I think it's reasonable to run this in any one of those missions for CanCon. The list itself, basically the same. So we've got Sheska Lieutenant, Caliban Chain of Command, Armoury Samaritan Hacker, Dartok Hacker, Liberto, Hugh Drone, which is TR bot, an Icadron, a Datarazi, Group 1, an R Drone, that rounds out Group 1. Group 2 consists of Datarazi, Icadron, Dr. Worm with a Slave bot, 2 Tagers, and the Speculo Killer.
I really like the Speculo Killer going to this list because
Hmm.
it takes that concept he was going for and kind of gets there. Especially with the tournament having every mission with an exclusion zone and having access to impersonators, it's kind of hard not to take one list with an impersonator in it because most people are not going to gear as heavily to defend against infiltrators because infiltrators basically don't work. Then be able to pull, here's my impersonator. It works just like an infiltrator, but I don't have to roll, and I can go in that little bit between the exclusion zone and your DZ for free.
Yeah.
It's one of the better holdbacks when you're going first is a cheeky speculo. I've been back and forth on whether the combi rifle is better than the boarding shotgun. I like the boarding shotgun over the combi rifle. It helps to crack. If you get in the back of someone, it helps to crack armor a little bit better. Especially if you're going up against a piece like if the piece you really want to remove is fairly decent in CC. So you don't want to run a speculo into a Volkalak, for example.
I'd almost say that, like, is the shotgun's 1 point less, right?
No, they're the same points.
Same cost.
Yeah. I'd almost say that it doesn't matter. The amount of times a speculo is just there to sort of stage dive into something really important and then it just dies is probably, I'd probably say 70% or more speculos just go in, kill something, or die.
Combined army players and people who play against combined army please remember that speculos have regeneration.
Fuck, do they?
So if their speculo goes unconscious and they're wigging you out by not regenerating it in their states phase, put it to death in yours so they don't roll that Fizz 12 to get them back up.
Crush them. Step on their necks.
Now, given perspective of a Hawk player, I would almost certainly go with boarding shotgun over combi rifle for this. Just coming from playing Fides a bit, still learning them, having that ability to fork with a template, or just the ability to go, you set up just a little bit poorly with your fire team. Here's templates.
Yeah, no, that's I think
walking into range, see what they do. If they dodge, if they dodge, hit mode the one you want to hit mode. If they don't dodge, bam, there's 2 templates straight across your whole thing.
You've also got the weird option of they all dodge, you smoke them.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
and then you take them
and
out
then just walk in and kill the one you want, and now also everyone else is in smoke and can't arrow the rest of your army.
I'd always be afraid of failing that Fizz 15 roll, and then I just wasted it, and they've all dodged to get into a better position. Like, fuck. I had too many times I've had like that happen where I should have just launched the template.
Yes. I agree. The template's almost always the correct option. It's just an interesting one to remember you have.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this is like a change to the list because I don't think it is. But that's a zero. What I wanted to be looking at. The use of sensor to deal with a weakness to camouflage, because you do have the Rindak, which also doubles as your paramedic. And you do have the Osnat, which does throw smoke grenades.
Look, that's fair. I don't know what you're taking instead of a Rindak though. Like what you're cutting for the Rindak.
That's what I'm saying. It's not really me advertising for anything. I mean, if anything, I'd probably say Osnat instead of something. I don't know. And yeah,
It's an interesting
Forbidden Deck
thought.
was what I considered for the first list.
yeah. It's just the case of
Osnat would be fairly easy to put in. You downgrade the Ardrone to an Imatron, you downgrade one of the Tagers to a Gaki, you change one of the Datarazzi to Osnat FTO, the 18.1.
something like that.
With a Vulcan
No,
shotgun,
it has to be the synced one. It's the only one with
Oh,
sensor.
for sensor.
Yeah. It's just the thought, like, if you're going to, and you are right, like I didn't realize that there is so little options for combined army to deal with mimetism, other than sucking it up and having to roll those whip checks.
Yeah, Datarazzi do it very efficiently.
Like, just walk up and was it
intuitive attack with chain rifles, even just catch models inside with chain rifles as well. Like,
shoot at one thing and just nick them.
Yeah, they do it quite well. So
if you're looking for sensor, I think probably the better way to go is just M drone over the Osnat. Because I think it's 10 points cheaper.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, to drag along a synced Praetor with it as well.
And you get the, like, in that case you get the repeater,
also,
you get the forward observer stuff like
I would like to try the Osnat
mimetism's on the TR bot
in the Osnat synced Praetor. I think it's an interesting one, and you're not necessarily drawn to the FTO profile in vanilla because you don't get the added benefit of the hungry Harris from Morats. So would I spend 26 points on a smoke thrower? Maybe I would. I don't know. I haven't.
I mean, it's an impetuous sensor smoke thrower thing.
It's cool. I like it. I think it's
yeah.
And the pit patrol, the Jaith pit patrol would be interesting as well.
I've always thought if you don't have the MSV, and you're worried about it, like TAC for instance, they don't have a huge amount of MSV, but they counter that by having a lot of sensor, or at least a decent amount of sensor.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, it's I wouldn't know how to change this list to put it in there.
It's hard, definitely difficult.
Well, I think that's where the list pairing comes in. That the one list is designed to deal with camo, and this list is designed to drop into something that he's not expecting much mimetism or camo.
This list feels like it's designed to fucking eat people. Got 3 Prometheans in there.
The Jaith pit patrol. The Jaith pit patrol only exists in Shazvasti. Sad. Can't get synced Tagers in in vanilla combined.
All right, what we got up next?
Next is Frank, our good friend of the show. Frank from New South Wales, from Sydney. Frank submitted one list to us today for B-pong and last launch. It is aptly titled Maximus, because Group 1 is a Maximus LT, a Dakini core link consisting of a heavy machine gun, a multi-sniper rifle, 2 Dakini combi rifles, and a Deva killer hacker. The Shukra chain of command with a boarding shotgun, a flash pulse bot, and a Garuda forward observer. Group 2 is a Danavas hacker, a Probot Evo hacker, a proxy loadout consisting of a Mark 1 engineer with 2 Yuddies, and a Mark 5 forward observer, another flash pulse bot, and a motorized bounty hunter. Frank's notes are the Mark 5 and the Garuda for early button pressing, Maximus for doing what Maximus does, which is midfield bullying, and if someone's got an uncontested lane, just run the motorized bounty hunter up and wreak havoc with that, because that's what they do. We've got some player concerns here: a lack of MSV and defense v smoke. He suggested adding Dart or a Dava MSV Spitfire. And rooftop hacking, which is sort of less concerning with the exclusion zones, the universal exclusion zones in this mission lineup. So I love the look of this list. You'd think a faction with access to the Asura would not have a problem with smoke and mimetism, but it is one of OSS's biggest weaknesses / counters, mimetism. So it is definitely a concern. Dart may or may not be fast enough to do exactly what Frank wants her to do, considering the exclusion zones, which would prevent her from getting the full mileage out of her forward deployment. She has a climbing plus, so she's a little faster than most things. And forward hacking is going to be less of an issue because of the exclusion zones. I would wonder the importance of the Danavas and the Dava killer hacking device pitches are pretty unreliable without burst bonus and a baggage bot. When we do have the baggage bot, but you're still rocking a BS11 pitcher. So what I did is I swapped the KHD for a MSV2 Spitfire Dava. The Danavas for a Daleth, which is the sensor bot, the forward observer bot, and a net rod to help it get back up to the proper amount of orders. Daleth helps with the camo in the midfield and is another fast specialist that can do the things in B-pong and last launch, push the button or grabs IDs for your non-specialists. You could instead go for Dart instead of the Dava multi MSV2, replacing it with another Dakini for like to keep purity and to keep to link team bonuses. But as with every time Frank sends us in a list, it's he's definitely has a feel for his list building, and his lists definitely have a certain I hesitate to say je ne sais quoi. So it's hard to make any significant changes without detracting from that feel. So my pimped list overall is the Maximus LT, a Dakini Link with a Dava MSV2 Spitfire, 2 Dakini combi rifles, Dakini multi-sniper, Dakini heavy machine gun, a Shubkra, chain of command, a flash pulse bot, a Garuda, and a net rod. And group 2 is a forward observer bot, a pro bot with the Evo hacker, the same proxy loadout, Mark 1 engineer, 2 yard bots, and a Mark 5 forward observer, and a motorized bounty hunter. Thoughts, lads?
I think I agree on the Danavas. It's unreliable pitchers. The army doesn't have a whole lot of hacking to back up those unreliable pitchers, anyways.
You would say that like a faction that includes the Asura doesn't have the hacking to back up
that list.
Yes, no, the list doesn't. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
I look at the Danavas more. Man, I'm wondering whether this is me coming so much from Bakunin, but I look at the Danavas more for the ability to lie down white noise.
Yeah, white noise
it's a way of, for the Dakinis, one of their biggest advantages is the fact that they have mimetism, obviously among other things. So the ability to maybe have like the Lamethith, or the flash pulse bot, having that near the Dakinis so that you can hide the pro bot, you can hide the Danavas, you're still able to put down white noise, you're still able to put down the marksmanship program. I think that's more where I look at the Danavas than the fact that it has pitches, because you guys are right. Like, it's like, I think it's BS11 firing those pitches.
Yeah.
Might be BS12, but who cares? And I mean, Aleph have always been about having like good hackers, not necessarily the ability to get them to where they need to go. That's why the Azura is such a fucking beat stick. But other than that, I don't mind the idea of Dart being used to replace that Diva MSV2. You do sort of have to spend an entire turn pushing her into what you want to kill.
That's
Which
not unlike. I mean, she's half an order away from her original position with the exclusion zone. So,
no,
yeah.
that's fine, and she's got climbing plus, so she can get where she needs to go. I'd probably go with that change. Have Dart instead of the Diva. I think you'll find even when you're fighting, it's just the range bands. I think the Dakini's fire team's more comfortable at the longer range, keeping things at bay. I've never found huge success with the MSV2 Diva Spitfire. That said, have I ever given it really a fair shake? Probably not.
It might be more comfortable in a mobile Harris that ISS uses it quite effectively with that.
Yeah, they do.
However, when you're starting looking at doing stuff like that, you're starting to get rid of things like Maximus, which kind of feel like the cornerstone of the list. So
yeah, I mean, this is a Pimp My List episode, not rewrite this list, unless you
exactly.
Well, and the list is titled Maximus.
Yeah, unless you're fucking
Absolutely.
Unless you're Trent and just fucking submit a meme.
Rewrite my list, please.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, without CB doing the brave thing of giving Netrods repeaters, there's not much that can be said of Aleph's hacking projection. So I think that
I think that it's always been for Aleph. It's always been their robots that you send up to be as like the repeaters.
Absolutely.
Right? It's never really been about pitches. One thing I should point out just quickly with Maximus is that while he's got really nice guns, he is also, I think, what Agamemnon, I'm really struggling with names today, was supposed to be. Or at the very least should have been, because he's got some really nice like combat stuff in there, like CC24, right, +2 damage, right, natural born warrior, immunity to crits, and all that sort of thing. So he is
he's a very cool addition to OSS.
Yeah, and he is right, like good pretty much all the way up into his feet.
Yeah, he'd actually be a good addition to those NCA lists for Armoury, I think, instead of the Squalos, because he's effective in his S2 form as well, in his pilot form.
Oh yeah, he actually is not half bad.
He's quite good.
But for points on the Armoury,
oh yeah, he doesn't have any points.
He's 0.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's a pilot and not an operator.
Not the actual thing. Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah. It's hard. Like Frank's list is so finely tuned that it's hard to make any real changes.
Yeah, it's like the big, when I was talking about changing to Dart, the big thing that Dart has is sort of takes like the Aleph version of the Speculate Killer. Is she's the thing that gets into your opponent's backline and just starts spraying things down. Which is what the list sort of likes now. It's more defensive sort of thing, which, considering you said B-pong and last launch, makes sense.
All right. Move on to player number 4.
We're about halfway through. Do you want to take a quick 5-minute break?
Sure. Let's take a 5.
Okay, let's get some
Get up, stretch, and refill drinks.
We'll be back for our last 2 pimped lists in a moment.
Last 4.
Last 2 submissions, 4 lists. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Welcome back, listeners. We're back from our break, and we are continuing our pimping our list pimping. So the next mission is from Dante, and he's playing Military Orders, which I understand is a relatively new flame of his. Maybe I'm wrong. But he said both of
Playing for a
the
little while, I think.
yeah, but both of the lists he gave us going towards being able to complete both missions without too much trouble. He decided that he wanted to sort of make his lists opponent dependent, with list 1 focusing a little bit more on if his opponent has a strong hacking sort of presence. So I'm guessing sort of the nomads, I guess the list we saw before for combined army. I don't know. I'm sure everyone else can think of some, but that's the ones that pop into my head straight away. The current list that he feels has a good solid is lacking solid defense and a good long range weapons that are characteristic of Pano. So currently, his list is the first group is a Bulleteer with a Knight of Montesa, a Fugazi drone bot, a Teutonic Knight with missile launcher, a Teutonic Knight Lieutenant with light shotgun Panzerfaust, another Teutonic Knight with Panzerfaust, a Crosier paramedic, a Curator combi rifle with that's just the engineer, isn't it? That's the MO engineer. And a Sierra drone bot, which is your TR bot. Then in group 2, he has an Order Sergeant hacker, Deferzen, a Bulleteer, a Mulebot, another Mulebot with Evo hacking device, and a Tech B. So if we go to what I've changed, with both of Dante's submissions, I didn't feel like there was a huge amount to change. I understand that he's got sort of that fear of hacking going on, but I think he's actually got a lot of firewalls almost on the get-go. The Bulleteers provide a natural firewall to hack through anything necessarily important, except for the Bulleteer itself. So if for the Knight of Montesa, he's leading with that Bulleteer, as well as the Deferzen link he had, is if you're leading with the Bulleteer, you got that firewall going for him because of the repeaters. The only thing he doesn't have that won't get a firewall straight away is his Teutonic Knights. And so what I've done is I've simply moved around a few points to get him the Teutonic Knight with the tin bot, which is just an extra point on top. So I've removed the mule bot, added the tin bot Teuton. So you start off with at least some sort of firewall on every single one of his links. And I'll get to this later, added a trauma doc for countermeasures, which is not really true, but we'll get to that in a second. The advantage of this is that you've got firewalls on that big link straight away, and you have, again, an extra doctor. The alternatives is that trauma doc is really just a 14-point placeholder. You've already got the Crosier paramedic, which can do anything that the doctor can.
And the Montesa.
And the Montesa, yes, exactly. So you can move that into something else, potentially. Maybe if there was a couple more points to move around, maybe drop down the Fugazi or something like that. You could turn that back into the Mulebot to get maybe firewalls onto your Bulleteers or marksmanship. I think you could... and the only other thing I could see is Deferzen's already a pretty nasty hacker on his own. I'm not really sure you necessarily need the Order Sergeant to back him up. So maybe put the Order Sergeant down for down to one of its lesser points and use those points to upgrade the trauma doc into that Mulebot slot. I think it's still... I mean, I think it was a good list from the get-go. I think it could still do pretty much everything. Not a huge amount of change with it. It's got a lot of order efficiency with the 3 fire teams, the duo, with the duo, the core fire team, and the Harris. And while Pano have a lot of like are known for their like long range good gunfighting, I don't think it's necessarily the bread and butter of military orders. You still have that missile launcher there. You've still got Spitfires, which is sort of your mid range. Really, the only thing you're missing is something that goes either to sniper rifle ranges, but you still have the missile launcher, and I suppose a more active heavy machine gun. And unfortunately for military orders, their heavy machine gun for the most part I think is stuck on either maybe an order sergeant, but at the very least on a hospitaller.
Yeah,
So
Hospitalia or the Sepulchre for the Knight of the
yeah,
Holy Trump.
yeah. So both very expensive pieces and would pretty much pull this link apart, this entire list apart. You'd have to rethink it almost entirely. So
Yeah.
I don't think you need to worry too much about not having the long range guns. I think military orders sort of pulls their range in a little bit and makes up for that by the fact that if you get too close, they are actually pretty good at punching you in the face.
Yeah.
So
I played against Dante's original list on Wednesday.
yeah, I think I saw at the very least Dante having a game.
Yeah. Yesterday I played against it, and it was it's good. It's a good list. Yeah, I think that the bullet so the mule bot's primarily there to put marksmanship on the TR bot rather than firewalling anything.
Probably, and like I said, that trauma doc and that order sergeant can have its points moved around for it. I just thought if you're scared of hacking, like this is the I'm scared of hacking list, I think that 10 bot on the big link really helps.
It does. One thing it does do is it
does reveal the lieutenant.
It does.
It reveals the lieutenant. Yep.
Big old target on the lieutenant.
I think it's still a question of whether it's
a killer in the list.
Yeah, I think it's still a question of whether it's Defersen though.
No, Defersen is one more point of whip over.
Oh yeah, okay. If you're talking about after the roll, yes, yeah, I was thinking about the fact that it might make the lieutenant obvious.
Then again, Teutons are very
they're pretty resilient.
They're pretty resilient. Like they don't like Teutons in a link don't really do a lot about like they don't go down very quickly, very easily. It would take a very concerted effort to put a Teuton down.
I think in that case, potentially that order sergeant just being like a plain order sergeant, so you've still got that question of who's the lieutenant, because they're both whip 13 and they both could be the lieutenant, and then you can put that mulebot back in.
Yeah. Cool list.
Yeah.
Next one.
So I think this was sort of Dante taking a look at really just rocking around with the tick belang. But this is also a list made for a list that he has to be less afraid of hacking. And he does say that he is wondering whether he's just entering the last stage of MO player grief, which I had a quick thought about, and I think it's curiosity, because you hear about the military orders and you wonder what it is. Lust, because you see how good the orders are. Then it'll be frustration, as you find out that it's not quite what MO is normally about. Then reservation and acceptance.
Dante did put in his notes that he was in the depression stage.
Oh, there you go. Okay, depression will be the reservation. Yeah, depression and then acceptance.
The fourth stage.
So he's on the fourth stage, Dante. You got one more to go where you accept your lot as an MO player. So this list is a Knight of Montesta paramedic, a Fugazi drone bot, an order sergeant, Teutonic with a heavy rocket launcher, Teutonic Knight with missile launcher, Teutonic Knight lieutenant, with a light shotgun and Panzerfaust, a Crosier paramedic, a curator, a tech bee, and a tick belang. And in group 2, it is a bulleteer, I think linked with the Knight of Montesa, an escort sergeant, which is sort of Emo's version of a auxiliar, so it does have an Oxbot with heavy flamethrower. 2 mule bots, which is just 8-point baggage bots, and a 360 visor war core. So for this particular list, changed a little bit more here, but it's still not. Actually, I don't think I changed really much at all. Because I found that any change, like any significant change I wanted to make, kind of meant like removing. I put the tick belang up top. That's why it looks so different.
Yeah, what have you changed? You've just turned the curator into a Teuton.
Teuton with the
with a timber
firewall. Yeah, that's all I've done. Because I think this goes hard with the 2 Knights of Montesas. Those guys are just terrifying.
Yeah, the Knight of Montesa and the tick belang duo.
I don't think so.
They could.
I thought. Oh, actually, you know what? I think you're right. I think that was what. I think that's what. Yeah, Knight of Montesa. No, the tick belang. Yeah, the tick belang doesn't have a
Has a duo. Doesn't have a duo option.
Doesn't have a duo option.
How sad.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing with like the Squallow in some lists can link and others it can't.
Mm-hmm.
I think NCA is the one that the NCA is the one that gets it. I don't think Varuna can link them.
Yeah, I think Vanilla Pano gets a tick.
Yeah, so I suppose all I can really say is kudos to Dante. I think this is a really good defensive list with the Order Sergeant and the Teuton. You've both got sort of that ability for unmasking, to project out that that like long range defense, right? You've got firing at least 14s. I don't think this is not pure. It's pretty hard to run pure.
It's very difficult to get a pure core in military orders because a lot of things can't actually have enough AVA to make it a pure.
Yeah, it's pretty much just hospitals, maybe order sergeants, depending on what you're going on.
Crozier is probably.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was just fair enough. Knights of Montesas and the Bulleteers. Knights of Montesas are pretty good for going into places like the Armoury. You just jump them off their bikes because they keep their mimetism when they're off their bikes. Just make sure that you keep them as non-impetuous. But yeah, I couldn't see much to change in this list for dealing with non-hacking heavy armies. It's got the resilience in there. It's got a lot of speed as far as the Knights of Montesas and the tick belangs go. The only thing I could think of is to maybe move some points around in order to upgrade one of those Knights of Montesas from a paramedic. Probably the one in Group 1 to I think it's got a red Fury.
Yeah.
Which is not the worst. It's only dropping 3 points.
It's 3 points, and you can drop both mule bots to flash bots.
I think there's the one issue they only get AVA 1.
Oh.
They're not a hack faction. They don't get AVA 3 flash pulse bots. God.
Okay, there's 1 point.
The privilege.
Yeah.
Look, there's already a Fugazi in the list.
In this, right, I think you could just drop the war core.
Probably.
Right?
Yeah.
And that would give you some added firepower on a list that actually no, you couldn't. I completely negated forgot the fact that the Swick won't work.
No.
Yeah. So the only real way you could do that is to give up really on the heavy rocket launcher on the Order Sergeant. It's only probably the realistic way to get it.
Could.
You could. what you could do is downgrade the Bulleteer to the shotgun, and then upgrade the Montesa to the Spitfire.
Maybe a Pathfinder, the Forward Observer bot. Because I think if there's one thing that this is going to struggle against, it's going to be midfield camo, especially if we're like sitting in the Armoury or last launch or whatever, where we have to dominate a certain
True. So
section.
something with sensor may not go amiss. Which is only the Pathfinder. So
It's the Pathfinder,
so like struggling with camo is just sort of, I guess, military ammo's lot in life. Yeah. I suppose the only other thing is a Black Friar, which I looked at putting in and didn't realize they are very expensive for what they provide you.
They're kind of just a little bit wet paper bags.
Yeah, they're just a tiny bit too expensive. Like they've got a whole bunch of stuff where I'd almost rather to have like a biometric visor +3 discover one, and then one that's just the MSV2. I suppose technically they do have that, so why don't? Oh, but like in the multi-rifle linkable version.
Discover biometric still has MSV2.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is like split it up so that they're cheaper.
Okay.
That is a piece that I've never seen on the table, and I would love to see it on the table.
The one I've seen, if I've seen a Black Fire at all, is the heavy rocket launcher one.
The heavy rocket launcher.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for dealing with camos, it's going to be about just sort of running into them for the most part.
Yeah.
And just saying, hey, I'm here. Get used to it.
Doctors are 25 points. That's the infirmaries. Yeah, their docs are whatever. Just crazy.
But yeah, that's about the only other suggestion I had, which is downgrade Bulleteer, upgrade Knight. You have a few less specialists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
I do like the 2 knights just because for things like
Unmasking
and B-pong, they can both go and hit buttons.
Yeah, I remember just playing Ed in his Varuna and just this knight going across the board. They could just get to where they want to do and press a button. And there's almost nothing you can do to stop them. Like, unless they purposely put themselves in front of fucking Atlanta or something, they're just like, nah, that's all right. I'll dodge, and then I'll tank the armor save on my 4 armor on a bike.
Yeah, they're crazy good.
And BTS 6 is
it's
enough to resist.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like a camo marker where you've only got one shot to kill them, and then they're gone. Because they're also quick bikes as well. They're not the 8.4, they're 8.6.
They are. They're good.
Yeah, no, one of my favorite models in the game for just everything. Like it, I wish it didn't have its silly helmet.
The helmet covering the helmet.
Yeah, but everything else about the Knights of Montesa is just so good.
They're so good.
All right, let's move on to
last but certainly not least is another friend of the show, Ryan from Sydney, who will be attending CanCon with all of us. He's playing Cosmoflot, as he has been for the last couple of years, I think. His first list his first list is for Armoury, Last Launch, and B-pong. We've got the it's a Varangian core with the Unknown Ranger, a Varangian submachine gun, Stranic Doctor, Patcher Vulcan shotgun, Patcher heavy flamethrower, Den McConnelly, the Polaris team, the Regular Bear with its controller, and a Paracommando for Group 1. And Group 2 is Usha McNeil, a Rockot LT, a Rockot Decoy with the same loadout, Tractor Mule, War Driver, Evo Hacker, and Wolfgang Amadeus Wolf. We've got it. Some notes sent to us. It's specialist heavy for B-pong and last launch. I think almost every unit in there is a specialist. It's great. And it's a Rockot Harris. So the variant core with UKR patches and Stranic, and a Rockot Harris with the non-Lieutenant Rockot, a War Driver, and Wolfgang for just side objectives and bullying midfield. So since we've decided that Cosmo is now my bailiwick, I may or may not have seen a certain video from Rob Cantrell, which featured this list quite recently. It was difficult to not let that one color my opinions on it. My primary thought of this was, I don't really like Wolfgang. There's already enough CC specialists in the list, and as a Harris leading gunfighter, he's not incredible. He's fine. He's BS12. He might he's burst 5, but he's still BS12 with no Viz mods. So I did a bit of tweaking to this one. This is probably the biggest tweak I've done to a list. And I might sound like a bit like a broken record here, but I changed the Wolfgang to a Cosmo Soldat specialist operative. Hooray! Big changes in this one. I changed the Rockot. Let's read the list out. The list now consists of a Cosmo Soldat Harris with the 2 patches, a Kazakh Doctor with a helper bot, the Polaris teams with the controller and the bear pod, Paracommando, Forward Observer, Den McConnelly, and a Tractor Mule. And Group 2, running out Group 1. And Group 2 is Usha McNeil, the Unknown Ranger, a War Driver Evo Hacker, a Rockot Paramedic, a Rockot LT with the Rifle LSG, and another Rockot with Rifle LSG. So changes were Wolfgang to Cosmo Soldat S Specialist Operative. UKR has gone into Group 2 to make a Rockot Core with the Cosmo Soldat sitting in the Group 1 to make a Harris with the patches. Stranic Doctor was downgraded to the Kazakh Doctor with a servant bot. The Varangian was turned into a Rockot Paramedic. And I used the points from the Stranic Doctor and the Varangian downgrade to turn the Rockot, to upgrade the Rockot LT and its decoy from the SMG profiles to the Rifle LSG profiles. I think it does the same thing as the first list. I think I kept the general core feel of the first list. It just adds a more lethal gunfighter than Wolfgang, and also increases the defensiveness of the weak point of the list. And very much the weak point of the list was that Rockot Lieutenant that gets left behind at the back of your DZ while its decoy runs up with Wolfgang. You could change groups around if you need. You could shift the UKR core or the Rockot core into Group 1, Cosmo Soldat into Group 2. And Den McConnelly could be an Ermendino instead of Den McConnelly. It could do every mission. It'll handily do Armoury last launch B-pong. It will handily do unmasking. And countermeasures. Countermeasures might need the Den McConnelly to an Ermendino swap. Yeah, I like this one. Thoughts?
Again, I like having the Unknown Ranger core in the smaller Group 2 because even though he's not going to be using it, he's got tack aware.
Yeah.
And
my only issue was that Usha's in the same group, and there are countless times that I've needed one more order on a over infiltrator.
Honestly, maybe swap the Tractor Mule and Usha.
Yeah, swap the Tractor Mule and Usha is probably the change I would make, or even the Paracommando.
I might. Depends how defensively you want to use that Unknown Ranger core. Because like it feels like a waste to leave the Unknown Ranger just to defend anything.
It's
It
not
doesn't.
defensive. You
Yeah.
push it. You push it.
Yep.
So the whole idea is to make a ball of Cosmo that that runs up the table, and you've got a Cosmo Soldat and a Patcher Link, like getting into the armory or pushing a particular objective or whatever, and then you've got another ball of the Unknown Ranger, and they sort of like create these sort of defensive zones where you can't go, in the middle of the table. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I might swap the Cosmo Soldat Patcher into Group 2, the Unknown Ranger into Group 1, just because I get the feeling that like Usha's gonna solve one problem, the Cosmo Soldat's gonna solve the other. And then there's gonna be and then there'll be an issue that'll always pop up that the Unknown Ranger needs to solve. And I'll always have to pick 2 out of those. So either Usha's not gonna move or the Cosmo Soldat's not gonna move.
Yeah. That's fair.
I would, if it was a different tournament, say, why are you taking the Para Commander over an SAS? But this tournament, in this particular case, the Para Commando makes more sense.
Yeah,
'Cause it
100%.
Yeah, because otherwise, the Para Commanders, unfortunately, are just really expensive and probably not as good SASs.
Damage 15 boarding shotgun.
Yeah, but you've got to get from the edge of the map to in range with the boarding shotgun.
The biggest part of that one's damage 14 flash pulses, man.
True. And yeah.
Still a BS attack.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I agree what you're saying about it. Wolfgang. There are very few armies that he fits comfortably in, and believe it or not, considering what he is, I feel like some of the Ariadne armies that he's in is the ones where he fits the least comfortably.
Yeah, I don't think he's a Cosmo piece.
Yeah,
There are pieces for 35 points in Cosmo that are like whole tiers above what Wolfgang does.
And I think
because he is similar to other pieces in Ariadne, so he has stuff to directly compete with.
yeah,
Well,
no,
he
exactly.
directly competes
Yeah.
with something that's 3 points cheaper and arguably a better model, which is Caden.
I was about to say, I was about to take a look. Yeah.
You know, Caden is similar enough. He doesn't have a multi rifle. He's got a T2 rifle instead. He doesn't.
Oh, he's got grenades though.
Yeah, he has the he has a T2 AP T2 CC attack. You know, he's so dangerous, Caden Don, and he never gets taken.
I mean, yeah, you know, I'm with you there. I would say that if you're going to take Wolfgang, save yourself 3 points and take Caden.
You heard it here first, folks. Take Caden instead of Wolfgang. No one's taking first strike, Don.
I suppose the only thing is, I mean, Wolfgang with a para CC weapon, if like you really wanted to make sure you got some sort of roll off, is pretty nasty. -9.
Yeah, the para CC weapon is nasty. It's good tech.
Like run it to attack and just be like, boom, you're not moving.
Yeah, it's good tech.
But I mean, T2 is also fucking great for smacking attack.
Damage 15 AP T2.
Yeah,
is gonna do a lot of work.
Yeah,
and you don't need it. You're berserking with them anyway. Like,
well, you're berserking to a 29.
Yeah,
and Caden's. I mean, for melee, he's 1 tick better. He's CC 23 versus 22.
Look, Caden here. Caden is the way to go. Hot take central on Loss of Lieutenant.
Well, no, not just that. Caden has Natural Born Warrior, and Wolfgang doesn't.
He's even better. Wow.
Yeah, I think the main thing that
good.
Wolfgang has is he's got the dodge +3. Honestly, seems to be about it.
Woo. All right.
Yeah.
This is Ryan's second list. He had it for countermeasures and unmasking. It consists of a Rockot core with Rockot submachine gun, grenades, decharges, a Rockot paramedic, a Patcher heavy flamethrower, Patcher Vulcan shotgun, a Volkalac heavy machine gun, Paracommando boarding shotgun, Forward Observer with a boarding shotgun, Usha specialist operative, and the Polaris team group. And it's 9 orders in Group 1, and Group 2 is a Cosmos Soldat portable autocannon with MSV1, Stranic Doctor and Frontovic, which creates a little Harris there, a Rockot LT with submachine gun grenades decharges, and a Tractomule. He states that a simple plan with this, Patcher Volkalac core move up to cover midfield, provide defensive 5 unmasking or table control for countermeasures, and customize done with the paramedic and the heavy infantry that it brings up the table. The Cosmos Soldat provides a damage 15 AP explosive Overwatch, and the Harris can complete a bunch of classifieds as well. Paracommando deploys inside the exclusion zone, can also complete objectives, and provides a bit of fire support. And Usha probably only hits one classified. Oh no, she's got decharges, maybe 2. And Predator as well, so 3. And you can over-infiltrate her to complete some classifieds or break up some links, doing what she does best. I really liked this list. Not that I didn't like the other one. I liked the other one too. There's a couple of issues with it. The main issue is you don't have a hacker for countermeasures. And when it's dangerous to bring a hacker, a list without a hacker into countermeasures, especially if you're Ariadne, because people will complete them so much quicker than you. So if you're going first or something, being able to get the jump on a hacking classified with countermeasures, especially if you get a shit draw and draw 2 of them or something, getting the jump on and being able to complete an extra classified, hacking classified is good. And the other issue was that the Rocket LT again sitting there in the back in Group 2 was just a bit. I didn't like it.
You have an impersonator. You don't have a lieutenant.
Yes, exactly. So what I did was I changed the 22-point patcher into a war driver Evo hacker. Put the Rockot lieutenant into Group 1 and added an extra tractor mule. What this did for us is it helped make the LT Rockot stand out a little bit less. It's still in Group 1. It's in Group 1 with the other Rockots. You could leave the non-LT behind and take the LT in your core link if you want to, just for some further obfuscation if you really need to. In countermeasure, it provides 1 extra order to this one because of the extra mule bot. Because the last one, Ryan's original list was 14 orders. This is now 15. And it's 2 extra in countermeasures because of the Evo hacker. Some extra things you could do is you could downgrade the 27-point patcher to the 22-point patcher, and what would that allow you to do is give you some more points to bump up those Rockots to rifle LSG. That just template defense is something that's always on my mind in Ariadne, especially if you've got such a weak LT. So having the Rockots provide that template defense as well is something I always like to sort of have. I suppose it's a holdover from me playing a lot of Caledonia and only running volunteer chain rifles. It does give up on the additional power of the firepower of the Vulcan shotgun, but I think that you've got enough AP in there that it really doesn't matter. And it covers the missions that that Ryan wanted it to do, unmasking, countermeasures, and B-pong. What do we think about this one, lads?
I like having the rocket in Group 1, or the lieutenant, because, like I said, that it's a little bit more obfuscation, and even at that, once everything's deployed, you could easily just declare the core with the lieutenant in it and the decoy out of it, if you're going second, and then on your first turn, just swap them if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
'Cause
having
then-
not having those options is dangerous.
Mhm.
Big time.
The only time I would ever like separate them into groups is like what you do with like moderators and stuff where they're not linked anyway, right?
Yes,
So it
yeah.
just depends on like how you want your groups to look, and it makes no difference. But yeah, it's dangerous to have those decoys, especially when you only got 2 of them and not have the ability to try and like you put the one that's the decoy up in a really defensible position, and people then be like, oh well, I won't try and alpha strike him, his lieutenant's all the way on top of a building that I'm never going to get to. I'm ever so slightly confused about the front of it. Is it just there because it's a heavy rocket launcher with mimetism?
I think it's because it's a veteran as well. It technically helps complete a classified. There's not a lot else you could put in that link. To be completely honest with you,
I don't know if they might be.
Well, it's a Cosmos Soldat link, and the only thing other than Cosmos Soldats and wildcards is a single frontivic. So I think it ends up being
it's also
a
the
cheap
cheapest.
option
it's the
to
cheapest
complete it
frontivic.
as the Harrys.
I'm just taking a look at like the headquarters and stuff. Cosmos Soldat's head. Because can't you just put a patcher there?
No. Oh, you could.
Yeah,
As
you've now dropped 1 patcher, so you have 1 spare.
You absolutely could put a patcher in that.
Patcher there.
Instead of the frontivic heavy rocket launcher.
It's one thing it's one thing I'm always conscious of is overlapping fire, like spending points in SWIC on overlapping range bands. Especially now, normally I'm not too hard up. Like I'm not too hard up on like a heavy rocket launcher and a HMG, because it's generally I want something to deal with something with armor. I want to deal something where high burst is more important. But the portable autocannon and the heavy rocket launcher, same burst, same range bands, I think. And if I think I'm right in saying that, I think the portable autocannon's got like back range bands.
I don't know what it does past 32.
Oh, I'm gonna check.
One moment. I'm pulling them up.
Portable autocannon. No, okay. It has
they
HMG.
have exactly the same range bands.
Yeah. So I think there's room for like shuffling around SWIC points, maybe. And also it means that if you're doing B-pong, having that patcher up there with the extra burst flamethrower, the extra burst Molotov grenades, and the heavy pistol.
Very, very true.
And the heavy pistol, like as far as ARO goes, is just going to be better than that assault pistol. I suppose the only thing is assault pistol over SMG. I'd probably still take the SMG. Yeah, that's about the only change I can really see to make.
Yeah, I like that. That's very reasonable, having the patcher instead of the frontivic.
And
it's also an extra wound.
Yeah, true. And is there an engineer in this one? Probably just blind and not seeing it.
There is not.
Right.
But
yeah.
if you're in dire straits and you're fixing a tractor mule with an Ermendino, I think.
Oh, that's right. Because then the only other ones left are do it to the HVT and D charges, which you've got plenty of D charges anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
If you're concerned about the heavy rocket launcher and portable autocannon doubling up, you could change the frontivic to a frontivic lieutenant.
True. And they do have
because that's a defensive link with a doctor, and the frontivic would also kind of go in well enough.
Ooh.
It's got an auto pistol or assault pistol still, and a T2 rifle.
Yep, I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's another one.
You'd end up with 1.5 more SWIC. You could try to spice up somewhere, but I'm not quite sure where to toss that in. And then your opponent gets really confused when they start trying to kill off the Rokots.
Yeah. The only other thing I could think of is, and I know you were mentioning about like not taking a hacker, but I think the Evo hacker can only do data scan.
But you've got forward observers for spotlighting things.
Yeah. So what I was saying is you could possibly get another decoy by downgrading, or like you were saying, rifle light shotgun by downgrading the war core and just if you get data scan. Sorry, war driver. Yeah, and just
normal hacker war driver.
Just discarding. Hopefully, if you get data scan.
The hacker also covers HVT espionage.
Oh, is there another one there now?
HVT espionage is basic hacker. Data scan is basic hacker.
Sorry, no, you're right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
And then nano espionage is covered by the FO, and then suspected infiltrator is covered by doctor, elites, veterans, medium infantry, heavy. Yeah.
It's also an extra order in countermeasures. And they're like countermeasures, and I'm asking are two very order intensive missions.
I think it's always a thing with Ariadne where you just sort of accept whatever lot you get, as far as like if it's all hacking, you're like just like that turn you just try and annihilate your opponent.
He's also got enough heavy infantry that's hackable to warrant fairy dust.
Yeah, and if you put in that patcher, that's another heavy infantry that could use that fairy dust.
That's great.
Yeah. That's there's small little movements here. What's better? Who knows?
Ryan will tell us
when he wins CanCon and thanks us. We should point out that if anyone wins CanCon with any of our lists, we get to pick your prize and take it home.
Okay, that's a bold assumption. Great.
Well, I mean, if they don't, just don't walk like late at night in the dark, because I'm gonna fucking mug you and take your damn prize.
Wow.
Jacob, lost look at it here.
If I win CanCon, it's gonna be like Fight Club. You guys are just gonna watch me punch myself in a parking lot.
Wow. Lost a lieutenant for all your hot takes and Tonya Harding of
vague threats of violence
of Infinity tournaments.
Yeah. But that brings us to I think the last of our submissions.
That is
yeah.
So yeah, thank you everybody who submitted anything, took the time to put their list together. I suppose this early in the game and put themselves out there to potentially show the world what they're going to run to CanCon. So thank you guys. Without your help, without I'm going to say bravery for lack of a better word, these last two episodes wouldn't have happened. But with that, I think we're just going to have to call it a night, guys.
Yep.
All right. So thank you for listening. I've been Jacob.
I've been Josh.
And I've been Nick.
Very gracious of you, Nick, to let me go first.
Good night, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.